What's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of Triple Threat Podcast. I am so excited to be back. If you haven't watched our last episode with Beetlejuice's Sean McManus, go check that out. Link in bio. Today we have a very special guest. Just started her run as Little Red on Broadway. Katy Geraghty joining us today. Thank you so much, Katy. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I mean, today is a day where we don't have to be in the theater until the show tonight, which is few and far between right now. We're still like in the note process. We're there a lot, so I'm enjoying the time off.
There you go. Well, we're so excited when you were joined into the cast. Do you remember the first time that we met?
Yes, I do, right outside the theater.
I like it was right outside the theater. I stopped you on the street. I was like, "Are you Katy?" and you were like, "Yes, I am." And I knew just from the start when you were announced. I had no idea who you were. Like I was just so excited that you were joining the cast. And then when I looked you up, you're extremely talented. I saw a bunch of videos of your voice, and I can't wait to come see you in stage at the St. James for Into the Woods. But before we get all into the woods stuff, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you got started, where you grew up, how you got started with theater, all that all that stuff.
Okay, I'm from the Boston area, so I got into theater really young. I was doing, like ballet and all of the normal stuff that they put little kids in, like your parents, and I was pretty good at it. So then my parents were planning to let me audition for the Nutcracker, and they just didn't want that to be my first audition. So I went to a local regional theater, North Shore Music Theater in Beverly, Massachusetts, and I auditioned for their Christmas Carol show. And I like accidentally got cast. So that was hilarious. And I was 7 at the time, so it's been a long career since then. So then kept doing like regional theater in the Boston area and things like that, and then I ended up going to college at UMass Amherst, and I studied not just theater but also education and psychology, which was busy but wonderful. And then immediately after college, I booked my first Broadway show, which was Groundhog Day in 2017. And since then, I kind of like worked regionally again all over the country, did a lot of new premieres of new musicals and things like that. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. I spent most of that time in Boston with my parents, which was honestly lovely. I never thought I would get this chance to like spend that time with them as an adult. And everyone stayed very healthy and like safe. And we were very lucky. Um, and then after that, I kind of hit the ground running again. And I was a part of Anne Juliet in Toronto, which was their pre-Broadway run, and I thought that that was going to be my next Broadway show, and it did not turn out that way. And then Into the Woods kind of just fell into my lap very recently, and here we are.
So everything's kind of moving fast for you, which is great.
Hmm.
Does it feel fast or does it feel slow?
Oh, it feels fast. It feels
Oh,
really
okay.
fast. No,
Now
everything
fast
has
in a
felt a bit
good
like a whirlwind. Yeah.
so fast in a good way.
Yeah.
Great. So, can you tell us a little bit about your audition process for college and how you got that? We have a lot of people that are studying musical theater right now that are watching this. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
My college experience was a little bit of a like different one. I auditioned for, I think it was 12 musical theater schools in total, and I did not get into any single one of them. So, right. Thank you for the face.
They're
I
crazy.
appreciate it.
They're crazy.
Which was, tragic at the time, but now it's like I have a lot of degrees and no debt, so it's fine. But I went to UMass with the intention of transferring. I just wanted to like go get some gen eds out of the way, and I knew I was ready for college. Like I did not want a gap year.
Right.
So I went there and ended up studying theater, but it's a BA and it's very much like an umbrella program. So it wasn't like musical theater or a conservatory. It wasn't anything like that. Um, Still a really great education, but I did end up studying a lot of other different things. Um, and like for college for me, I mean, Groundhog Day kind of happened because it was like it was networking and connections that I had already made in life, and the music director of Groundhog Day was married to the director of a show I had done like 2 years before that. So they were the ones that brought me in, and I was auditioning for Groundhog Day during my finals week of my senior year of college. Of course, not just as a theater major. So, like, there was a lot of finals that I was taking. And then I got that literally 36 hours after I graduated. So, like, I didn't go to a theater school in theory, and it all worked out just fine. So, like, college is important and know what you need, but at the same time, like, you will never know what your path is going to be until you're looking back on it.
Yeah, for sure. You summed it up perfectly, and I hope anybody that's watching that is going to musical theater really takes that in, because I know a lot of students are, really struggling right now, saying, "Oh," because to be honest, when you're in college studying musical theater, from my friends that have told me, the goal is just Broadway,
Right.
and sometimes that shouldn't always be, the end goal, and you've seen that firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you've been in many premieres of musicals starting out, which we're going to get into. Um, but it did eventually, lead you to Broadway.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your Broadway debut, Groundhog Day, 2016, 2017.
2017. Mm-hmm.
2017, I didn't even know about it until you told me it in the middle of 44th Street, wherever we were. Um, and then once I looked it up, I was delighted by all the work that you did. And I do have a picture here. So you have right here Andy Carl pictured in the middle, and you are reunited right now with Andy
I
Carl
know.
as he is taking over for Gavin Creel as the
Mm-hmm.
Wolf. How does that feel?
It's so fun. I'm you know, we'll get into how fast Into the Woods happened for me at some point, but
Yeah.
like it was fast. And at some point, I started, after I had accepted the role and knew that it was happening, just like panicking. And a lot of it was like, oh, okay, this is such an all-star cast. And like, will I feel like an outsider? Will I feel like I don't belong here? Like, the wolf and Little Red is kind of like the only relationship that she has in Act One, and then she like grows with the Bakers and Jack in Act Two, but and Cinderella as well, but like she doesn't really have that much interaction, like relationship in Act One other than the wolf. And Gavin is wonderful. We've only met like briefly a couple of times, but I'm very excited to work with him. But like there was a lot of apprehension about that, just being like, are we going to get along? Is this going to be fine? And then I realized that Andy was my first 2 weeks of this run. And I was like, you know what? That is a sign from the universe that this is all good and we are going to be great. And he and I are, we're already friends. So, like we had a very big stage kiss in Groundhog Day, so we're very comfortable with each other, and it was just like playing from the minute we started. We were just goofing around.
I've heard nothing but good things about the both of you in Into the Woods. So, like I said, I'm so excited to go see that. But on that opening night or first preview of Groundhog Day, Broadway debut, you're in New York City, lights are big, theater's huge, backstage space is still small. But how did it feel to, go on stage and just hear this uproaring of applause, knowing that you had people in the audience? What was that feeling like?
It was amazing. Our first preview for Groundhog Day actually went a little awry. And so we had a lot of technical issues in that show. There were five turntables. Five. So it was like at any given moment anything could go wrong. Um, and it was brilliant when it worked, but it was a really intricate piece of machinery that didn't always work. So on opening preview, I think we got like maybe 15 minutes in, and then it just stopped. And usually we had like you can kind of feel it. Like turntables are interesting. I've worked with them a lot now, and you can kind of feel it like kick a little bit when there's something wrong, and then like usually within the next 5 minutes it stops. And so we didn't really
Wow.
feel anything like that, and it like halted, like it was an intense stop. Um, what we later found out was that like literally one of the tiny, tiny little wheels was like out of place, and it just stopped working. So we held the curtain for like 40 minutes. They did like a pre-intermission intermission, offered everybody a free drink and whatever, and then we ended up doing a concert after 40 minutes. So my Broadway preview, my first preview on Broadway was a lot. But then
That's
I mean,
insane.
yeah, it was crazy. But a lot of those people came back the next night, which was like very Groundhog Day of them anyway. Um,
Right.
so it, honestly, like it ended up being kind of an amazing night of theater. To go through it sucked, like that adrenaline crash. I cannot, I mean, I got home after the evening was finally done and I got like very sick because your body was just like, what is going on? But eventually we had a ball. Groundhog Day, but that first one was a little intense.
And I feel like you have a little bit more pressure, especially with that being your first show, because it was such a popular movie. Everybody knows the story. So
Hmm.
everybody, you have those diehard Groundhog Day fans that will know if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Um, so I can't even imagine how that actually felt.
Yeah, it was intense. I mean, everybody in the audience said that it was like a super cool night of theater just because it had to
Right.
all be on the fly, but like it was not very fun for those involved.
For those involved. And well, it's a memory that you hold on forever and will remember
Yeah.
forever. So you can look at it like that in a positive way. So after Groundhog Day, what did you go into? Did you jump right into something else, or how did that kind of work?
No, actually, I kind of didn't work for a while after Groundhog Day. Because also I like moved to New York with that contract, so I hadn't had like a normal audition season or anything like that. And of course, I had been working, just not in New York. So it took me a while, and I, like temped and did like babysitting jobs and a bunch of stuff. My next show was actually Hairspray the next summer in 2018 in a regional theater in Long Island. Not this one, but the one before that. But yes,
The
I
one
have been
before that,
crazy
but
many
this is
times. The one before that, yes, this was in OSF, which was right after that. So
gotcha.
the next time I worked was Hairspray, and it was the next summer. And I think because it had been like such a long time since I had worked, like the longest time in my life up until that point that I had not worked. And then Hairspray and Tracy is such like a swan song for so many like girls, and that's amazing. And I had done it twice in high school, but it had been a while since I had done it, so it was like 7 years later, finally getting to like play her as a professional and with the Broadway credit under my belt and whatever, was lovely. And then that is also when Bliss first came into my life too. So I started that process in 2018.
Right. So once again, Hairspray, huge fan
Yep.
base, huge phenomenon. Everybody knows it. Everybody's singing those songs, and you're going out there and singing them every night. And
Hmm.
people are like, "Ooh, is she gonna hit that one note in like Good Morning Baltimore?"
Yep.
And so that's both a lot of pressure. And
Yeah.
then after Hairspray, you kind of go into a whole new creation where you're building something from the ground up,
Hmm.
completely new. Nobody knows anything about it. It has, four great, you know, lead stars. Here's you
Hmm.
guys, and you guys just look phenomenal.
Thank you.
And
I love
so,
that
how
picture.
did you how did you get started with the process of this musical?
So Bliss was I auditioned for it in like the late summer of 2018, and what I was auditioning for was a workshop that was going to happen in the fall. And which was 4 weeks. It's like for a new musical, you are presenting it at the end, but it is not a production. And I remember reading the script and being like, oh wow, there's like so much about this girl that I really resonate with. I always say that Carmela, who is my character, is just me at my most monstrous. Like she's a diva and ridiculous and like all of the wonderful things, but she's so earnest all the time and just like feels everything out loud. Um, but she's so much fun. And like that audition process, I actually, the writers and I have always joked around that I pulled like the worst party foul in the world and left my apartment without an umbrella in New York. And then out of nowhere, like a torrential downpour happens. So I walk into this audition room comically wet, like pulling in a puddle, shoes squeaking, wet. Um, and the director just looks up from the table and she just kind of chuckles and she just goes, is it raining? And I was like, listen, and it just kind of like went into this whole funny tirade and they were laughing and whatever. And like, I was being dramatic in a funny way, but apparently, like, it was exactly what Carmela was, and I didn't even realize that at the time. So the writers were like, "You walked in, and it was done," um, which was amazing. So Since then,
And
there's been such lovely, yeah, just get wet, I guess. That's how you're gonna book.
to all of our performers listening, that we've all heard all of our theater teachers say it. Shout out to my theater teacher. I don't know if you're watching, but hey, you're always auditioning,
Mhm.
always, no matter
Mhm.
what. Even if you were outside and they did see you run inside and get drenched, they could have been watching you. They could have been watching how you
Absolutely.
move, how you react.
Right.
So you're always auditioning.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like since then it's just been a really fun process because it's been like 4 years and change now that that Carmela has been in my life. And it's so cool. And like the four women that you saw in the photo are like they are sisters to me now, and we've had like a couple people come in and replace since then, and they are also sisters. And it's really cool to be able to do something for so many years that has so much of you and also people that you have learned and grown to love in them. So like it's been a wonderful process the whole time.
Now, how was it teching the show? Having all the sets come together, all the songs and you know dialogue pieced together into one huge story. And can you tell us a little bit about what the story is about?
Yeah, so Bliss is about four sisters. It's a fairy tale, and it starts very Disney, like their mom dies, and their dad is just like afraid of the world and doesn't want them to get hurt, so he locks them in a tower. And but instead of like raising them to be damsels, they're really like strong, independent women, and they all have um, their own personal skill set, but they also like speak 13 languages, and they're intelligent and um just really funny, but have a little bit of a skewed sense of confidence because they've never been outside. Um, and then, like, through a long series of things, they happen to break out of their castle and they kind of get like bullied for the first time. Like, people see them in the streets and they're like, hey, you guys are weird, and we don't really understand that. So it's a little heartbreaking. And then they find out that there's a prince and just all of these opportunities. And then they're met with an opportunity to put themselves under like a Stepford Wives type of spell. That will make them really beautiful and like what the prince is looking for, and they have to basically decide whether or not that's worth it, and then like everything that ensues after that without spoiling too much. Um,
Mm.
so it's amazing. It's such a great show, and I love Bliss so much, and I cannot wait for it to like really come to life and hopefully go to Broadway and all of that. But when we did our performance at Fifth Ave in Seattle,
Hmm.
which was in the right at the beginning of 2020, so before the pandemic hit, but like right before, um we it was so cool to see a full production because like at this point I had never seen anything that was like that. It was never a visual thing. It was always like on the page and hearing the music, and I would see us dancing and rehearsing, but like you have your own idea of what it looks like, and then the designers have a totally different thing, and then it's also a fairy tale world. So honestly, it was just beautiful more than anything else. Like, it was so colorful, and the costumes were amazing, and there are these like perfect princesses, as they call them, that are under that Stepford like spell, and they have these unbelievable ball gowns. So like it was just I felt like a little kid. Like, it was the coolest thing to watch all of it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is there any word of it going to Broadway
That's
right
always been the
now?
plan. Um, I know that they are pushing pretty hard. Our last workshop that we did was presented to the powers that be. Like, there were
Okay.
some of the big theater people in the room that
Right.
day. So
Hmm.
that's the plan. I haven't heard anything concrete, but that's always been the plan. Yeah.
Hopefully, you go with them. You have a lot of
Oh yeah.
things that you have
I'm
to.
not going
You have a
anywhere
lot of.
with Bliss.
You have a lot of things that you have to go with. Now, was there a cast recording of Bliss?
There are a few songs that are out. It's not a full cast recording as far as like every song in the show. But we do have, I believe, four that will be released. We already have two that are out. One is called Inside These Castle Walls, and that's the four sisters. We're all singing in our bedroom, kind of angsty. And then there's another one called Through the Night, which is the prince's song to kind of announce that he's having a ball. But there are two more that are coming, and they're such bops, and they're everywhere that you get your music. So please go listen to them. They're amazing.
Yeah, go check that out. And when it does eventually come to Broadway, off Broadway, anywhere, go support it
Mhm.
because I can't wait to see it. You know,
Mhm.
the story seems so interesting. The cast is amazing. Um, so yeah, after that,
Mhm.
you did and Juliet,
Yes, I did.
and
Ridiculous.
that is, you know, they're starting to promo that a lot. And you know, it's another musical where it's from the ground up.
Mhm.
Um, you know, created it. It started off in the UK,
Yep.
and then it transferred over to Toronto, and now it's transferring over to Broadway. I'm sure everybody got the mailer in their
Yep.
mail, and you're actually in it.
I know I
I
am.
don't. I opened my mail the other day and I was like, "Oh, look who it is!" and, and I personally can't wait to see the show because I saw the AGT performance and
Mhm.
it was phenomenal.
Oh, they were so
Um,
good. They were so
so good. We have a star-studded cast. You know, Betsy Wolfe is in there. She is one of my, you know, all-time favorite performers. And I know in the UK they had a ton of people go in. Like Kaya Lacetto went in as the
good.
nurse.
Mhm.
She could potentially come to, you know, to Broadway. You know, if the show does run forever, like it does. So I'm so excited to see where the show does go. And if you guys haven't heard about & Juliet, definitely go check it out. It has all of your favorite songs, literally all of your favorite songs that are so easy to get caught in your head. I'm not gonna say more about it because I want everybody to go see it and I want you to talk more about it. But how did you get involved with that production? What was the audition process like? Was it nerve wracking? Like, how did they get in touch with you? All that stuff. In Toronto, putting it up.
Yeah, I had an EcoCast like a request, I guess, from them. And I know I was still at my parents' house, so this must have when I was like nearing the end of my pandemic time with my parents. But I remember texting my roommate just being like, "Do you know what this is?" And he was like, "Oh my God, yes!" Like I can't, but like yes, it's brilliant. You'd be brilliant in this. But so I did a self tape at one point, and that was super fun. I was always in for an ensemble track that was going to cover. So I have always been reading for the nurse who is Mela Berry, who's unbelievable, and then also Anne, who is Betsy Wolfe. So I would do both of those scenes, and then I would be doing like tons of different songs from the musical. Um, and honestly, it was, I had that one. I did the tape. It was super fun. We had to do like a little dance call, which was my first time ever having to do a dance call on camera. So that was fun. I had to move all of my parents' furniture in their living room and I broke a lamp and it was fine. But so then I did a callback once I was in the city and it took a little bit of time actually to get cast, which stunk because I felt so good when I walked out of the room. I was like, wow, okay, I think I really might have booked this. And then they kind of did it in like 3 rounds. And I was in Bliss at the time, another workshop version of Bliss with Jumin Huang, who did book & Juliet. And he knew much earlier than I did. And of course, like nobody knows, but we all know when somebody gets something. So I was really bummed because I thought I didn't get it and I just needed to be patient and got the call like a week later. Um, so then that started rehearsals in early May, which was unbelievable. And like the show is so fun. All of the songs that you said, like there's tons. Anyone that you can think of is in the show. But I do like that it's very Mamma Mia-esque for like our generation, where it's really self-aware. Like it's not trying to make the songs anything that they're not. And most of the time, when a song is funny and people laugh at the beginning of it, it's because the show wants you to, not because they're trying to make it into something that it's not. So it's very self-aware, but at the same time, David West Reed, who wrote Schitt's Creek, is the writer, so the book is really clever and the comedy is excellent, and they're all unbelievable. I love & Juliet, and like my time in Toronto was wonderful, and I do miss it a lot.
So was it a big change moving to Toronto
Not really.
personally?
I mean, it's nice because we kept referring to it as like theater camp, because all of us were staying in the same like condo building. So if we
Right.
wanted to hang out, we were only a floor away, and that was fun. So our cast got really, really tight. But Toronto is beautiful, And we had such lovely weather the whole time we were there. The Princess of Wales Theater is beautiful and their staff is great. So like I think we all had a really excellent time in Toronto.
That's awesome. So we knew it was transferring to Broadway, and then when I stopped you on the street and we had that our little conversation, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And you're going to Anne Juliet on Broadway, right? And then you were like, "No, not as of right now." And you had just booked, Into the Woods,
Yeah.
which had just come to Broadway, hot off the press from New York City Center. Sarah Bareilles, Brian d'Arcy James, you know, Gavin Creel, Joshua Henry, Patina Miller, Julia Lester, David Patrick Kelly, Annie Golden, Nancy Opal. We can keep naming names.
Mhm. I know.
But it was this star-studded cast that, it had been extended and then
Mhm.
extended. And then it was extended one more time. But we didn't know who the cast was. And then, they released Stephanie J. Block, her husband Sebastian, Andy Carl. Again, all these huge, huge names. Krista
Mhm.
Rodriguez, like, and Harada coming back to the role. And how did it feel to see people reposting that and your face up there with all these legendary people?
Crazy. It's crazy. Um, I think I've played Little Red before in my life. It's been a long time since the last time, but this is actually round five for me. Yeah, a lot of time. So it in some ways it kind of like the cast and me actually playing the part felt like two separate things. Because like when I got that call, or for the self tape for it, I honestly kind of knew it immediately. I was like, I think I'm gonna get this, and um just because it feels like my whole life has been like leading up to this finally coming to fruition, which sounds so like whatever, but that's how I feel about it truly. And then with the cast, my mom actually was the one who was talking about it. My parents saw it last weekend, and obviously they've seen it many, many times because I've been in it. And she was saying that like to see like the titans of the industry take on this show just like reminds you of how good it is. Um, and she's right. Like I think that that's the part of it that has felt the most surreal. Is just to watch them all work on like a near perfect musical. Um,
Right.
at my first day of music rehearsal, I walked in and Stephanie was in the middle of doing Moments in the Woods, and I was like, "What am I doing here?" Like that was a little heady. But they're all such kind and wonderful people, and like I have never been treated by them any differently than the people next to them. Um, and we were such a team, and it was nice to replace in such a big group because we were like we had to have each other's backs. So like it's heady when I think about it, but I really try not to think about it.
Right. So you mentioned that you kind of knew um, that you killed it um, for your audition, and you always mention how fast everything went for Into the Woods. Did you get a call and the rehearsals were the next week, or did you have some time to process in between?
I had a little bit of time. The dates were on the initial email for the self-tape were a little bit different than the dates that worked out because I think more of the cast left than they originally thought they were going to. So they needed a little bit more time to cast more people. So I thought that I was going to have to leave Anne Juliet early, which would have been awful. Um, they would have been wildly supportive. They have all been so supportive through this whole thing. But originally it was going to be at the beginning of August for rehearsals, and then late August would have been the first performance, and then it would have continued. But that obviously got pushed about 2 weeks. So the getting cast was really fast. I did one self tape. I had like a 20-minute Zoom callback meeting, and then I was cast like a couple hours later. So it was ridiculous. And then I
Wow.
just kind of sat on that bomb for like 2 weeks before I could tell my cast anything, which also stunk to like have to keep it to myself. And of course, like again, we all never know, but we all know. And um, that was it too. So we were also like winding down the run, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm doing these for the last time, but they don't know that. and like I want to share that with them. So that was a little strange, but ultimately I finished and Juliet on a Sunday, and I flew to Boston for my dad's birthday for like 2 seconds, and then I was rehearsing on that Friday for Into the Woods, which is crazy.
Wow,
Yeah,
that is insane.
yeah.
How? So you mentioned that you did Little Red before, so you were familiar with the character, you know, the choices that you'd make as the character. But this production of Into the Woods was probably a little bit different than you've ever
Hmm.
done before. If anybody doesn't know, this is not a full staged version of Into the Woods. It is. I don't want to say a concert because it's a lot more than a concert, but it's less dialed back. So
Yeah,
there's no big sets, and in my opinion, I think it works better that way. I
I do too.
really, really enjoy the current Broadway version because you get to connect more with the characters, and I'm sure you guys as actors on stage, you get to focus more on your on your character work. You don't have that many, you know, this is gonna wheel in here, this is gonna go there, because otherwise, Into the Woods is one hard ass show. It is
Hmm.
very complicated to do. You have to be on point, on beat. Into the Woods was my senior show um, that I just did. I played the baker, so it's like literally you can't miss a beat, and if you miss a beat, it throws everything off.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm gonna say this now. I don't like the song. I love to listen to it. Hate to perform it. Your fault.
Yeah.
It's just like, and I kept those means, but like it was just like you'd never know.
Hmm.
Bless his heart, amazing music. But Stephen Sondheim really said, "You're gonna work on this one."
Oh yeah. He said you're gonna
when
earn
you
your paycheck today, folks.
when you do Into the Woods. But how was that first performance going on as Little Red?
It was amazing. There was not that this was ever meant in the way that I took it, but like at one point, I think it was our associate choreographer, but somebody said, and it was never meant as a dig, but like they were like, okay, and then Katie will exit with hopeful applause and then like continue because there are some shows where like people are quiet, whatever, and it's not really like the end of Little Red's opening is not exactly a button. Like it is, but it's not, and like sometimes they just don't know to clap. But I was sitting there being like, oh my God, what if they don't applaud? I got so in my
I know.
head about that, and I told like I had a very large group of my friends there who are all lovely, but it's also hilarious because they were like, "Do you want us to come on opening night?" And I said, "No," and then they came anyway. So um, yeah, but I like told like my roommate and like two of my like very close friends, and I was like, "Listen, I need you to start the applause so that people know." Because if it's
I,
silent, I'm gonna off myself. Like I can't.
I felt that 100%.
And I was so like I don't know why I was so panicked about that, and I was panicked about the button of that. And then all of a sudden, I skip on, and like Jack and Jack's mother have a scene going on when I'm entering, so I can hear like like I just hear like little gasps that are happening from the audience, and then I get down and I do the knock, and then like it literally was like a roar of sound, and it was like, and this is just me walking on, and like I know
Right.
that it's like it is an entrance applause show, people are used to that, but I'm like I'm not the star or a star at all of this, and like I didn't expect that at all. And then like my first I wish was just my best guess at the notes because I couldn't even hear the music like at all. It was so loud. And
First of
I
all,
think like
you are a star, so don't.
thank you.
I haven't
um
seen you on stage yet, but I, I've heard it. Somebody, so I've heard it.
See, we
I've
never
heard you
know, but we
sing.
all know. Yep.
I've heard you sing the Little Red songs, which it's not supposed to happen. It really shouldn't happen. You know, yeah, but I did hear it um, on Instagram, and you were phenomenal.
Thank you.
So it was great, and I saw the show twice on Broadway with this cast, and I was at the opening night, so I was at opening night, so of course everybody's gonna clap for everybody's entrance, and then the second time that I went, um, it wasn't really like people didn't clap that much, and then I'd been other times where they didn't clap, and it is kind of awkward. So I do know
Hmm.
why you why you get got
Yeah.
nervous
I
because
was
you're
just,
skipping on
it was just like
stage.
the littlest thing. And I'm like, there are so many things for you to focus on, Catherine. And this is like what you're thinking about. But for whatever reason, that was what I was like so fixated on. Needless
Yeah,
to say, my friends were like, we couldn't have started that if we tried. People just like exploded around us.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, it was very cool.
And I, you replaced Julia Lester,
Hmm.
who gained such like popular audience because of High School Musical, the musical, the series,
Hmm.
and all of the work that she did on that, and she was phenomenal as Little Red. And so, how did it feel to step into those shoes?
It's strange. I've also never replaced before. Groundhog Day was an original Broadway cast, as well as, and Juliet, they were on the West End, but they were allowing us to do our own thing a lot.
It's
And
original.
of course, like, yeah, right. But like, and Bliss is the same thing. So I've never done that part before. And one of my friends described it as in like they're giving you the shape and you can color it any way you want. But there was some growing pains figuring out how to do that for me. Um, and I mean, I know that Julia did so many amazing things with the role, plenty of which are still in there, like a lot of her really unbelievable jokes and like her takes on certain things that are not necessarily in the script, but just like a wonderful take on them are very much still in this production, which is brilliant. Um, but yeah, it's a strange and very humbling thing because no matter what, anybody who's seen Julia who sees me is going to compare us. Like there's no way that you can not do that. That's just a human thing to do.
Well, I
Including
think it's the
honestly,
same
including myself.
with any of the cast. I
Yeah.
think anywhere,
Oh yeah.
not only at Into the Woods.
Yeah. No, that's like always going to be a thing. So it's something where it's like we are not the same person and we are never supposed to be the same person, and I got cast because of what I was doing in my tape, and anything that I bring that has to do with like me and Julia should be a lovely marrying of the two. But
Right.
there's still like I'm still learning how to do that, because we're still only a week and a half in, which is nuts. But
Crazy.
yeah, it's amazing, and Julia is such a good person. She's so kind, and like I shadowed her backstage. So when you're replacing or when you are swinging or covering, this is a fairly normal thing. Because like backstage, there's a lot of things you need to know anyway. Like just knowing where they are on stage is only half the battle.
Right.
Especially learning how the dressers are going to quick change, if there's any traffic, if there's somebody coming that you need to get out of the way of. These are all important things to know. That's like where people get hurt the most is backstage. So when I was shadowing her, um, she was so great, and I like kept trying to just like not get in the way of her work, and like 'cause she's
Hmm.
working. But she and I just ended up like gabbing and laughing for like half the show, and it was lovely. Like I feel like I've just gained a wonderful friend, and she's so talented, and I cannot wait to see what she does with her life.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
And I can't wait to see what you bring to the role. I do plan on going to see this cast. I have to. Like, it's not like I wasn't going to, but now I really have to.
No, you have to.
Now I have to. And it has just been extended one more time
Hmm.
into January. Do you know if you're staying with the show all the way through?
Yes, that's always been my contract is through January.
Okay, so you guys knew it was extending. We just had no idea.
Just like the internet
But
doesn't know something that I know. But yes,
it's
that's always
it
been the contract
applaud
for
to you
me.
to keeping those secrets. That I wouldn't be able to do it.
It's so weird.
But
The secrecy
I
is
know
weird in this profession.
I can't even imagine. So it looks like you're enjoying your time as Little Red. I mean, you look amazing. Look at that
Woohoo!
right there. Jenny Anderson captured you coming down the stairs.
I love it.
Is it a
She and I she had just photographed me and Juliet like very recently. So she was
uh
laughing
huh?
when she walked into my dressing room, but she's like, "Girl, I just saw you." Like we were laughing, and then like she and I were chatting and whatever, and then when I came down the stairs, she caught us both in the middle of a scream. Like she was screaming behind the camera and I was screaming in that picture. So it was very sweet.
That's awesome. Are those stairs actually as hard as everybody says they are?
Oh my God, they're the worst. So bad. My dressing room's on the sixth floor. Six.
Oh,
And like between that
6.
and the skipping, my legs are so mad right now. Um, and I no, I would rather stick a fork in my eye than go up those stairs more than
Mm.
I have to. So like I hang out downstairs in the basement in the green room or in the understudy lounge. Like
Hmm.
that's where you will find me. I will never go up to my dressing room during the show if I can avoid it.
Right.
But yes, they suck. They're
Wow.
terrible.
Well, I can't wait to see everything that you do. Hopefully, you do go to Broadway with Anne Juliet after your run as Little Red in Into the Woods. Which, by the way, everybody go show Katy all the love. Instagram will be, in the link in the bio. All of her socials in the link in the bio. Go see Into the Woods before it's out. I promise it is worth it. It is worth seeing it. Get your butt down there to the St. James to go see it. But with that being said, we can't wait to see everything that you do. Thank you so much for coming on today and speaking to me. I appreciate it. You are a star, and it was so lovely meeting you that day in the street. And I screamed at her, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And so sorry about
No,
that.
it was so nice. You were so sweet.
And me and all my friends were just standing there. I was going to see the show that night, and I was just like, yeah, come on my podcast. And she was, you were like, sure, yeah, let's do it. And here we are now, and we had a great conversation. And thank you so much. So, guys, make sure you follow Katy on everything. Go see Into the Woods. Support. Check out our podcast, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. Subscribe. Everything is here. Once again, I'm Garrett Garcia. Katy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
We will
having
see you
me.
in the next. Yes, of course. We'll see you all next time. Thanks so much.